Good Monday morning to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook video for today, June 3rd, 2024. Let's get started with taking a look at the National Hurricane Center to see what is going on. And in the Atlantic Basin over the next week, it continues to remain quiet, nice and quiet. The quiet continues. Definitely enjoy it while it lasts. In the Eastern Pacific, though, it is actually a different story. We're still watching this area of interest, even though it's probably not going to develop. The chances are still there. It's actually a 20% chance now. Yesterday it was at a 10% chance, but there was actually increased convective activity that occurred yesterday, at least with the organization of the system. So I guess the National Hurricane Center did bump this chance up a little bit, but it still remains only 20%, and it probably still won't develop into much of anything. If we take a look at the satellite shot of the Atlantic, let's just really quickly refresh it just to get a better satellite, a more updated satellite view, if you will. And you can see across the Atlantic, it still remains quiet. We have a few tropical waves embedded in the ITCZ that we have here in the far southern MDR, but it doesn't look like anything will develop as of the moment. Do have also some cloud cover over the Bahamas and the northern Caribbean islands, probably some rain showers ongoing there, but you can still see not very environmentally favorable for conditions in the Atlantic yet. We have lots of dry air, especially in the mid levels of the atmosphere, and I'm going to show you, actually put into perspective, actually just how much dry air there is. But you could also take a look in the Eastern Pacific on the far left side of the satellite shot. I guess I should have kind of put a satellite shot that focused more on the Eastern Pacific, but there's the area of interest that the National Hurricane Center marked. And I guess cloud cover, the convective activity doesn't look as good this morning as it did last night, but it did actually have some decent convective activity and did almost look like it had a very vigorous mid-level center. But obviously convective activity has since decreased. So I'm pretty sure this area of interest in the Pacific that we have right now, that is noted by the National Hurricane Center, this probably won't develop anyways. If we take a look though, in terms of Saharan air, you can definitely see that there's a lot of Saharan air out there in the Atlantic right now. As I said, throughout the season, throughout the early season, we will continue to get these Saharan air plumes that come off of Africa. Of course, though, when it comes to actual development of storms, especially in the MDR in the early season, as in maybe later this month or even next month in July, how much Saharan air we have and how strong these Saharan air outbreaks will really be crucial into whether or not we might have windows of opportunity for things to develop in the MDR. But another really good way to take a look at, stuff like Saharan air is if you put it into perspective in terms of mid-level dry air, because not always actually will the issue be Saharan air itself, but sometimes the mid-levels of the atmosphere will just be dry in general, and this is really an issue, especially sometimes in other seasons where maybe Saharan air wasn't the issue, but it really was the mid-levels of the atmosphere that were dry. And this is especially important because that's actually the mid-levels is where tropical waves especially tend to be most dominant in terms of their reflectivity and their vorticity. It's really most dominant in the mid-levels, and if conditions in the mid-levels of the atmosphere are not favorable, then things will really tend to struggle, and we have seen that in the past, just how much mid-level dry air really does hurt a season sometimes, and not always is it Saharan air related, and you can see right now, especially in the eastern MDR, probably has something to do with Saharan air, but there's lots of mid-level dry air in the atmosphere. Definitely not favorable in terms of development for any sort of major development to occur. And even in the Caribbean and Gulf too, we have lots of mid-level dry air as well. Until this clears away, obviously we will not see anything major in terms of development. Sea surface temperature wise though in the Atlantic, do not be fooled by this map. It kind of looks like the Gulf of Mexico is but if you actually take a look at the scale, these blues that you see here are actually 28 degrees Celsius. Well, this is actually 27 degrees Celsius. These bluish greens that you see widespread across the Gulf, those are actually the 28 degrees Celsius markings. and these greens kind of going into these light yellows are 29 degrees Celsius. So what this means in actuality is the Gulf is very warm. Um, those 27, 26 degrees Celsius readings go all the way up to the northern Gulf Coast now. So basically that means the Gulf is completely warmed up and ready for development of tropical cyclones. And you can even see off the southwest coast of Florida as much as 30 and even some 31s I could see off Florida and even off Cuba as well. And I'm sure as things continue to warm up in both of these areas, they will probably continue to warm up, and we might see these 30 degrees Celsius readings become much more widespread over the Gulf, especially as we head later into the season, closer towards the peak. It's going to get really warm in the Gulf if it's not already warm. Trust me. And if we take it out into a wider shot of the general Western Atlantic, you can see not anomalies, sea surface temperatures stretch out basically the entire Western Atlantic. We are solidly at least 27 or so degrees Celsius in the general Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico area. Even in the Caribbean, widespread 29 stretched out through most of the entire part of the Caribbean as well. And the fact that we're seeing this, because this map is still on June 1st, so I guess we gotta wait till it updates to June 2nd, but the fact that we're seeing this in early June really raises the question, especially in terms of early season development. What this tells me, the fact that we have all these very warm mid to upper 80s in terms of sea surface temperatures, it tells me that really we got to watch out, especially in terms of short-term interests for early season development, because not only is the atmosphere looking like it will be favorable as we head towards mid-June, and if you've been following me, you know that we've been talking about that for a while, that it looks like things could get more favorable as we head towards mid-June atmospherically. But this also means sea surface temperature wise, we're ready for development, and anything that will try to occur, I'm pretty sure will definitely try. And I'm telling you, it's only a matter of time before Alberto comes, and I'm pretty sure by the time we get to mid-June, whenever we get things to become more favorable in this area, I'm pretty sure we will see one or even multiple things try to become our first few named storms of the season. And this definitely sets a precedence as well for how the season later on will be, because if it's warm like this right now in June, definitely don't want to imagine just how warm the Atlantic as a whole will get into the peak. But that's still a ways away from now, and we still have some time left to worry about that. Taking a look though at the GFS to see if there's any sort of signal yet for Alberto, and just going to take it out really quickly to the next week. Nothing much. However, I did see on the GFS that they were starting to show some signs, if you will, of vorticity generally beginning to gather in the Western Caribbean near the Yucatan Peninsula. The ATZ it was the ATZ happy hour run from yesterday, but they did actually show development occur in the Western Caribbean yesterday on the ATZ run around this time frame, around the June 10th time frame. But it's not entirely out of the possibility that we might see something getting going, as once again, as I did mention, this general area of the Atlantic will start to become more favorable as we head towards around June 10th and later. And I guess that is starting to be reflected on the GFS. You can see general vorticity begins to gather in the Western Caribbean. So that probably means pressures will lower in this area, and we probably will see real development chances, or at least signaled by the models, probably as we head towards the next several days. I'm inclined to believe maybe more closer towards the exact middle point of June, so around June 15th is when we might need to watch this area. But it's a start. The models are starting to pick up on something, and if maybe we could actually take this out into time a little bit more. Yeah, you can see the GFS does try to spin up something in the Western Caribbean. Doesn't become all that defined though, but meanwhile in the Eastern Pacific though, still not much of anything to talk about there. I know that there was something on the models yesterday, doesn't look like it's there today. All in all though, I think the general picture is that it's still, at least for the next week or so, remains quiet. And as I said before, as I said at the beginning, enjoy the quiet now, because I'm pretty sure by the time we get towards the end of the season, we'll definitely be begging for the quiet to come. With that being said, though, not much else to talk about, so I'm going to wrap it up for this morning. Decided to post a video early in the morning today instead of in the afternoon, so we kind of get more time, maybe to see if we could get more people to watch the video. But just generally, just so it could fit into my schedule better, that I upload in the morning, so I don't have to worry about uploading in the evening. So I guess we're going to try doing these morning uploads a little bit more to see how they work. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and share with family and friends. Share your thoughts as well in the comments. Would really appreciate it. With that being said, stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to all. Thanks for watching, and we will see each other again soon, hopefully.